Welcome to the Path Podcast, where we will travel the lives of some bold women, from dreams to detours to destiny. She did not choose this path. This path chose her. This is the Path Podcast. Hey, everyone. Welcome back to another powerful episode of the Path Podcast. Today, I am bringing to you a great conversation with a bold sister determined to live life to its fullest after a devastating breast cancer diagnosis. In this conversation, you'll hear the lessons she learned as well as her path through it all and how it fueled her to turn it into something much bigger than herself. As a breast cancer survivor and thriver, she took a devastating time in her life and turned it into a business to help others who knows all too well to fight through this awful disease. Who am I speaking of? Well, her name is Hannah Hopkins Walton. But Hannah said, and I quote, "I know that life is uniquely messy and awesome." What a great attitude after all she's been through. Hannah has a passion for creating connection with women who, in her words, have joined that crappy cancer club. Path listeners, help me give a larger than life welcome to our sister, Hannah Hopkins Walton. Welcome, Hannah. How are you?
I'm so good. Thank you so much for having me on today.
Oh, no. I'm so honored to have you. When we connected, we're in a Facebook group, everyone, and we connected. And when I've been looking for someone to speak on this in this lane. And I have several people that I've been talking to about it, but I'm waiting for it to come into fruition, and maybe coming in a few months, I'll have some more people on. But I'm so excited to have you. So, but let me tell everyone again the topic. And Hannah's story is one filled for some. I'm sure it's filled with fear, feeling anxious, and maybe sadness. And some are asking, why me? Today, you're going to also hear someone who took it in. It's going to sound like a lighter side of it, but she will still tell you, or you will still tell us, it was not easy. But I love the energy after I've watched you to see how you've brought so much joy to people. I feel just watching you and listening to what we'll tell you a lot about what she's doing. It just seems you make everything happy. And I love that. So tell me, Hannah, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, I think number one is I was kind of just born with rose-colored glasses. It's just people always say, "Are you that optimistic?" And I kind of am. I think I move through processing quickly. So I'm very much like, all right, what do we need to do? How do we get this moving? Let's get this game on. So that, and I would consider myself very stubborn, where I've been around the block. I've had some big traumas and little traumas, and ain't nothing going to take me down. So wonderful. I think that's kind of where I came into the game when I was diagnosed. So
let me ask you this. Let me tell you, one of our normal ways of starting the podcast also, I love to ask, tell me about the younger Hannah. What was your hopes and dreams for yourself, for your life before all of everything that happened? What were your hopes and dreams as a young Hannah?
Gosh, I had a really traditional Midwestern upbringing. I grew up on a farm. I was raised Quaker, of all things, and very, very traditional. And then things kind of got rocky, where my parents got divorced, family split apart. It was very, very, I kind of say it's one of those ugly 80s divorces, where everybody hated everybody else. We lived in some domestic violence shelters sometimes. It's what you, part of the story, right? It's what gives you resilience, and luckily overcame those challenges. I had some real lows. I went through an eating disorder when I was a teenager, and the best thing ever was I got treatment for that, which allowed me some mental health counseling. And I am a huge advocate for talking about it and just having complete transparency, because that's where that it puts you on the right path.
Of course.
So,
and what? on the path here, we are big believers in, reaching out and getting that extra help where we need it. We believe in
Yeah.
therapy. We believe in anywhere out there where you can get help for things that we all need helping. We are not perfect in everything or experts in everything that we go through in this life. So,
Yeah.
and I love what you said when you said I was going to ask you about the Quaker farm girl, but I love also that you said you were in a punk rock band and and your backup
Yes.
dancers were drag queen dancers. And I'm like, I love it. I am here for all of it. So,
I've I have had a colorful life. That's why I say it's uniquely messy. Because
that
yeah,
is wonderful.
thank you. Thank you. I moved out of Iowa and to Kansas City and kind of just found my people. I couldn't from the farm girl life, I couldn't get enough around enough like concrete and people
Yeah.
and life and
Yes.
city. And
Yes.
that's what I wanted to be in. And a couple friends of mine said, "Hey, can you sing?" And I said, "I don't know." And they said, "Will you get on stage?" And I went, "Heck yeah."
You said, okay.
Yeah. So next thing I knew in the 90s, I was in a punk band and oh my gosh, we had so much fun.
I love it. You know what? That would be the highlight if we could see videos of that one day, everyone.
Right?
So tell me, I want to get into like I said, this is going to be a lighter side because I think your personality from what I've seen and everyone, let me tell you, I don't know her personally, but I feel like I do because of just looking at through your information and everything. I can tell you are a lively person and look at the lighter side of life. You try to, and
Yeah.
going through such a devastating time, like hearing those four words, like you said on your website. You tell me about the day when you heard those four words, I have breast cancer.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's interesting because I always like to say how I ended up at the doctor's in the first
Yeah.
place.
Mm-hmm.
So, I ended up having blood come out of my nipple, and when I was like, oh, it's probably hormonal. My husband said, no, go to the doctor. And doctor said it's probably hormonal, but let's get you in.
Mm-hmm.
And what I ended up finding out was I had had my mammogram 6 months prior and it was clear. And then in the course of 6 months, it had filled up side to side, front to back with calcifications.
Yes.
And literally that day, I went from like, oh, this will be 20 minutes. I'm in, I'm out, just checking to make sure it's okay, to leaving there with brochures for wigs and having them say, we know what we're looking at. We'll do the biopsy in a day and we'll get you rolling. And so things happened really, really fast for me. So
you said you had the mammogram 6 months prior to having that. Everything came out fine.
yeah.
And within a course of 6 months,
Yeah.
they said you have breast cancer.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was what type of breast cancer? Do you mind saying?
Oh,
what
no,
type?
not at all. I am an open book, baby.
Okay.
It is.
Wonderful.
I had triple negative breast cancer. And so what that means is it's not hormone related. And the problem is it's a rare kind, but then it's also extremely aggressive. And you can't do hormone suppression to deal with that. And so what they do is they just get you rolling. Literally within 3 weeks of my diagnosis, I had a mastectomy, double mastectomy. So
within 3 weeks?
Within 3 weeks. Yeah.
And just for a person like me who does not understand all of it, and you still think, I'm thinking, and I know I've listened to your podcast, and I'm putting it out there before she's telling us that she has a podcast, everyone. You said, I'm thinking that it would be, you hear the news, you talk to your doctor, you go through chemo, you go through radiation. How did it get in just within a span of 3 weeks? You had a mastectomy.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because they had said I need to expect chemo expect radiation. And the doctors, a lot of times people will do chemo and radiation first.
Yes.
And then have the mastectomy. But since mine was so aggressive and they just kept telling me, we don't usually see it look like this. And I kept getting information that it's worse. It's just, the news was just layering on the bad news. And so we kind of decided, let's just get these off me and then we'll deal with everything. So yeah.
That makes sense to me.
At the time, my kids were in 2nd grade and 4th grade. And so the first question I said to the doctor is, how long is this going to take? I got kids to raise. I have kids
thinking about your babies, of course.
Yeah. You're the mama. You got to make money. You got to be there. There's things that need to be done. So
life is still going on.
Right.
So let me ask you this. To hear, if you don't mind going back to hear is not good. To hear that you have breast cancer. And then on top to hear the type and the form and it's so aggressive sounding. How did you handle that? Or how did you process it to keep moving?
I think I went into shock and survival and I think that's where maybe some of the things that I had been through before made it so that way I was like, all right, let's take care of this. What needs to be done? I'll deal with my emotions later. Wow. Let me be pragmatic about this, which may or may not have been the best thing to do. So it was when I was in the shower in the morning, I would get upset. And when I'd be going to sleep. And I think that's because, as a mama, that's me time.
Yes.
But then the rest of the day, it was, okay, what needs to be done? Let's take care of this. And so I just took a deep breath and kept moving.
You know what? And that's understandable being a mother at that, because you want your kids not to feel like something is so wrong. Did you tell them at the time since they were so young?
Yeah. I literally told them the whole family that day. Okay. I came home and everybody was outside riding bicycles in the driveway and everything. Yeah. And my husband was sitting in a lawn chair and I sat down by him and told him what was going on and told the kids. And my kids, I think, were a little too young to really understand. Yeah. But one of the big things that they communicated, and I really, really appreciate this, is they didn't want to ever hear my husband and I whispering or my son is the older kid. And he said he didn't want to walk into a room and have us quiet.
Exactly. Wow.
And feel like it was really
That's insightful for him to feel that way.
Yes. Yeah. He is a mature little guy and he's 14 now. And he said he feels, because I've asked them about that since then. And he said he always felt solid that I was telling him the truth. Wonderful. And he wanted to know that if I was going to die, I would tell him. And if not, he knew that it was going to be okay. Because I said it's going to be hard and it's going to suck.
Yeah.
And it's going to be ugly and snotty and painful, but we're going to get through it. And he would know, I needed to be authentic with him.
And how old was he at the time?
He was 10.
And what year was that when you were diagnosed?
2017.
Wow. What an insight. And you know what everyone out there needs to understand, because I'm going to keep going into it. Yes, she has a podcast. We're going to have her tell you about all of that. But what I love is what you're saying is, you said this in when I heard it, that everybody's different. So everybody's experiences are going to be different. You even said earlier you didn't know if it was right the way you handled it, but it worked for you. So everyone else out there may not be able to do the same thing, and everyone's children cannot, I know, understand or comprehend or would want to know everything your son is knowing. But then some parents need to know their children to know if they are that ones who really and respect the fact that some of them can handle it, like your son. Yeah. He wanted to at least know, and it would have prepared him better not that the pain would have been any less if it did turn out a different way, but he
Mhm.
would have been able to process it a different way. You spoke about, you speak about him. What about your daughter at the time? She was probably still not,
She's little, and
she was
she's our
smaller.
yeah, yeah, she was second grade at the time.
Okay.
And so she 6, 7. How old are you in second grade?
Yes.
But she is an artistic kid.
Mhm.
And so I would ask her to draw me pictures
Hmm.
because I think if they know where to put things. So for
Oh my
her,
goodness, yes.
that was action
Mhm.
for helping. And so she would draw me little pictures and stuff.
Uh-huh.
And that was amazing.
Uh-huh.
And I had told her I'd let her shave my head and then she could decorate my head
Mhm.
and that kind of stuff. And it just she was okay. Yeah, I think it may be right to say it or not, but
Mhm.
mama sets the tone.
I agree.
And so I was confident in my doctors and supported them, and I felt like my kids were confident and supported me that I was saying it's okay right now.
Yes.
So, yeah.
A great point and a great way to look at it. And it was wonderful your experiences to have to go through this, to know your doctors and to be respectful of what they were saying to you as well. But I also heard something you were saying, you were in a group chat, I think it was on Facebook, in a group, and with different people who had similar types of cancers, and you had an experience with one person after you made a decision after speaking with one of your doctors. You mind sharing that if it's okay?
Yeah, yeah. So that was kind of devastating to me.
Hmm.
I was in a support group for women who have triple negative.
Yes.
And like I said, there's kind of a game plan when you have triple negative
Okay.
where, boom, it is chemo, radiation, and then surgery.
Hmm.
And for me, I had an even more rare cell structure.
Hmm.
0.03% of the triple negative women have this cell structure, and it's called apocrine features. And
Hmm.
there are different subtypes of cells
Hmm.
from a scientific level, and those are within triple negative, and some are more aggressive.
Hmm.
Mine, some way, somehow, it was like a get out of jail free card.
Wonderful.
So that cell structure doesn't metastasize
Hmm.
like the other triple negative ones do. And so I went, like, I had shaved my head.
Mm.
I had my port for chemo. The oncologist was preparing me,
Mm.
and I had to drive to Denver, which is 45 minutes away. And they transferred me to an oncologist close to me.
Hmm.
And she said, I stayed up all night researching these apocrine features, and they just started identifying that it's better to not give chemo.
Wow.
So my husband and I just about fell out of our chairs.
You had
We
already
made her.
cut your hair. You said you had the port
Yes,
already. You were getting
yes.
prepared.
I
And
thought
y'all,
I
she
was
has the
getting
cutest
prepared.
hair. She has the cutest look. So, somebody like me, that would have just threw me over. I don't know what I would have done if I had already cut my hair, but
Yes,
really.
yes, yes. So I thought I was starting chemo the next day. Like, I had said goodbye to my clients, for a
Yes.
while. I didn't know when I'd be back.
Hmm.
It was just, I was going into the nothingness of chemo,
Exactly.
meaning just the
The
unknown.
unknown, of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
And yeah, we made her repeat it 3 times. And I got off the phone and I called my nurse
Yes.
coordinator and told on her,
Yeah.
where I said, she said this. I felt like I was a kid, where I was
So
just
you reported it to
telling,
the other person you were working with
yes,
prior.
exactly, saying, what in the world is she talking about?
Exactly.
And so, yeah, they conferred. And then I even checked with a third oncologist, and they all said, yep, no chemo, and
Wow.
you're good to go.
And the
So
majority of the people normally would have chemo. That's
yes, yes. And so, yeah, so I really, really struggled at that point with
I would have
feeling
too.
like they had made a mistake. And I was even trying to negotiate, like, what about if you just give me 2 chemos?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
again, going back to, I gotta live.
Of course. You have
So
a family.
yeah, yeah. So back to this Facebook group, I sat with that information of not having chemo for probably 8 months, very, very uncomfortably. And doing research and everything, and there's not even hardly any research with it that you can find. And so I reached out to this group and I said, hey, I have this. I don't know anyone who's like this. Is there anybody out there? Because there were 5,000 women in this group. And anybody out there who has triple negative and didn't have chemo? And not one person.
You're kidding.
No, I had people tell me they had apocrine features and still had chemo. But then the unfortunate incident was a woman chewed me out up and down and said, how dare you be in this group and not have chemo? Like
Really?
Yes. And it was like, she was offended by my presence, and it was a dark day.
Of course. And my thing is, I'm thinking, you're all in this group because you support and to, gain knowledge and be around like-minded people. And one person can probably get different information. It's not like you thought of that on your own. Your doctor, your oncologist is the one that recommended that to you and you have to think that the doctors have some clue too of what they're talking about. So it's not like you were in there just spreading false information or trying to.
Well, and I was sitting there at the time flat. Like I had these big old scars on me. My chest was caved in because I didn't have any tissue. Like I had all of that part. I just didn't have the chemo part. So yeah.
Oh my
so
goodness.
It was rough. And I understand now, in the midst of it, I was in the muck and my feelings were hurt. I didn't know where to turn. And now I can look at it and say, she was in a bad place.
Yes.
And I feel sorry for her that she was in such a bad place that I was a discomfort to her.
Of course.
Of course.
And some people, I'm pretty sure probably she was in a bad place, I'm sure, like you said, and maybe probably wish they had known this, it makes you wonder maybe today, what would she say if that was the case, because some people probably would have wished they had a doctor who probably looked at their situation differently and didn't do it. Because even as women, we've heard that a lot of women get hysterectomies even that don't need them, because they just recommend you get this hysterectomy and different things even to that sort. So, it's just, sometimes some people wish they had a different doctor or somebody gave them did that extensive research like that oncologist, took another level and started looking at other stuff. And because I remember talking to another young lady who hopefully one day I'm going to have her on here. She always said, the way she says it is know your medical. Know the type of cancer you have, know the different things that are out there. She says she was doing her own types of research that she could, of course. And they of course she's learned how to question even her doctors and just even ask questions, even, the doctors respectfully answer her, but it's just knowing it, you have to know everything yourself. So tell me, it had to make a hard decision for you to just say, okay, I'm doing what the oncologist said, no chemo, and move on.
Yeah.
It had to be hard.
Yeah. So they said, go ahead and get reconstruction and get back to life.
Wow.
So and go to, so now what I do is I do 6-month checkups at the oncologist and they do a blood test that looks for tumor markers. So
wow. That is
so you just kind of go from being in shock. And I think my entire system was in fight or flight.
Yes.
To then trying to integrate calming down and, the fight isn't there. Yeah. So So kind of, trying to find your new normal.
Of course. Because you had already, I read when you said something too, you try to think the worst scenario for you, the worst, and then you come in between, or you can explain it better than me, but so I can understand that. And I read also on your blog where you say why going through breast cancer is like being abducted by aliens. So, and then of course, I don't know at what point I was going to ask you, what did you explain that? But then now to hear calm back down, like you just said, okay, get back to life as normal
Yeah.
and keep moving, keep it moving, keep it moving. And so tell me what you meant by that. You when you say why going through breast cancer is like being abducted by aliens.
Oh my gosh, because you're going through your normal life.
Yes.
And this is pre-COVID. So
Yes.
it was before we all got plunked out of life. And
Of course.
actually, COVID is very similar because all of a sudden everything's different.
Yeah.
So for me, I couldn't go to work.
Mm-hmm.
I had to make other plans to have my kids picked up.
Mm-hmm.
All this other stuff. When you're diagnosed, you immediately have 10,000 appointments
Yes.
with surgeons, oncologists, teams, this test, genetic
Mhm.
testing.
Mhm.
And at first I was trying to fit it in because, I was a hairdresser. So fit it in around clients and picking up kids. So I was like, all right, well, I think I can do it in 2.5 weeks.
Yes.
And finally, the receptionists were saying, Hannah, there's a note on your file to tell you need to take the first.
You need to take the first what? Because it kind of
the first appointment available. Like you
wow.
don't have the option to work it into your schedule. And so boom, my schedule went from normal Hannah life to
Yes.
all these appointments and just cancer world.
Yes.
And you're being poked and prodded and take your clothes off and
Yes. Yes.
all that. So
Yes.
you're how you teach kids, this is my bubble, that's your bubble.
Yes.
All of a sudden you have a lot of people in your bubble.
In your bubble. Wow.
Yeah. And so that's what I mean is you're just kind of plunked out of something and
Mm-hmm.
your life is not your own for a while. So, and you
Yeah.
don't know when it's going to go back to normal. And that's kind of why I say COVID has been a really close second
To that.
to all
And that
that.
would make a lot of people understand it too. And I think anybody out there who has experienced anything that's to them has been devastating, you understand how that life just changes.
Yeah.
And
Do you ever know that moment?
yes.
You've had it, I've had it, where you
Mhm.
have that moment
Yes.
and it's you have a visceral response in your body.
Yes.
And my brain would tell me, because I've had many of those,
Mhm.
people die, this and
Yes.
that,
Same.
being diagnosed with cancer, where from that moment on, life looks different.
It does. It does.
In that moment, things are never going to be the same.
It's so true what you just said. I agree. So
Yeah.
I want to move into the wonderful things that, like I've said in doing this podcast, is there's always purpose that can come out of pain. Unfortunately, I mean, or fortunately, we all grow because we don't know life to be the same. We change as a person in some ways. Tell me what has come about for Hannah that you wanted to give to the world, or you felt like change, or what changed in you, or that you wanted to do something different.
Gosh, so I have a practical mind where,
Mhm.
I'm a problem solver. And when I was going through my surgeries,
Mhm.
I felt more in control
Mhm.
because everything about having cancer is out of control. And
Yes.
so, of course, I was researching everything that could possibly help me, what I could eat, how I could, sleep, all
Mhm.
that, and what I could take with me for surgery that
Mhm.
would help with my comfort. And so for me, one of those items was a shirt, because after surgery, you have drains that
Mhm.
come out of the side. And what that does is there's swelling and fluid after the mastectomy, and it either stays inside, and they don't want it to stay inside, so it comes out. And
Mhm.
you'll have those drains for a week to 2 weeks.
Mhm.
And often then because for me, I had 5 surgeries total.
Oh wow.
And so for 2 of those, I had drains.
Okay.
So I made a shirt that had pockets on the inside of the shirt
Mhm.
to
Mhm.
hold those drains. So
Wow.
just for comfort and everything. And I
Mhm.
made a pillow to wear across my chest
Mhm.
for car ride home to keep the seatbelt off of me and all that.
Mhm.
And at least I had no idea what surgery was going to be like, but I walked up there with my little shirt and my little pillow and was like, well, I'm as prepared as I can be, dang it.
Yes. But let me
So-
ask you this. Did you know, okay, so when you did the shirts,
Yeah.
did you know that you needed that? Did somebody recommend you
Oh,
may
thank
want to
you.
do this, that?
Yeah, I found it on Pinterest.
Okay.
And so there are easily available patterns and guides for how to do it on Pinterest. So
Really?
yeah, at least for the mastectomy. And at the time online, you could get these shirts, but they cost like $60 or even $100.
Oh, wow.
And for me, I thought there needed to be an affordable alternative. And if you don't have somebody who can sew, or if you can't sew and you're so nervous about money, that's a big deal. That was kind of my little spark of there needed to be a commercially available and cute shirt.
All of the things that we all think about as well. You want to feel good about, you're already going through something that is so daunting. You definitely want to feel your best, at least as best as possible. How can we find these shirts? Where do you have a website?
I do. Yeah. Thank you. The website is somebunyawesome.com and it's spelled kind of funny. It's SOMEBUNNY awesome.com. And I'm on Instagram under that too, Somebunny Awesome.
So tell me, Somebunny Awesome. Now, if this is dealing with something major like mastectomies, drainage for shirts, where did Somebunny Awesome come from? Where did that name come from?
Okay, well, I had a buddy who was an artist in Santa Fe, and he was the weirdest person I know, and he was the most in tune person I knew. And he did all these paintings of inner bunnies, where a theory that everybody had an inner bunny.
Yes.
And your inner bunny, there's different components too.
Yeah.
You have your inner bunny that's like your dark side. You have your inner bunny that's super, super crazy stubborn. You have your inner bunny that is playful and ridiculous. And so for me, I just loved that idea so much. And I didn't want it to be my company to be called Breast Cancer This, or because there's already so much heaviness.
Yeah.
And so I decided, let's start right from the start and name the company something fun.
But you know what? People would appreciate that because it is heavy.
Yeah. Well, and I've had people say thank you because other women I've met who have breast cancer have said, what do you feel about the pink ribbon?
Yeah.
Or what do you feel about all that? Because some people connect with it heavily and some people don't. And so I thought, all right, let me make up something different.
Yes, exactly.
I'll be my own thing.
We're not the same.
Yeah.
That's the only difference.
Well, and I tried to be really thoughtful with it where I put a love note in the back of the shirts. So silk screened in the back, it says, you got this.
Yes.
You are awesome. And so I felt like every time you put on that shirt, it's like a hug.
It is. Oh my God.
You're not alone. It's thoughtful. So even though it's the lighter side, I tried to do everything super thoughtful.
Oh no, you can tell. Because even with the idea of wanting, people not to spend so much more money because it's a lot already. I've even heard talking to some that, some people trying to even get their medications and everything. It's still a lot on top of all of that, as well as life just continuously still going on. It doesn't stop.
And you're not working. See? So,
and if
like for me, I was a hairdresser, there was no money coming in.
Because you're an entrepreneur. So when you stop, that part would have stopped in some ways. Have you received feedback from people who have gotten the shirts already?
Yes. I'm dancing around.
Which you all can see her because she is dancing.
Yes, I get feedback and I am just like jumping and I'm like running around the house, showing my husband, showing my kids.
Yeah.
Because I think the coolest one, because there's a couple other brands of shirts out there now, which is fantastic. Because if I'm not your go get it.
Yes.
Just get a shirt.
Just get a shirt.
find who you like
Of
and get
course.
it. But I had a woman who wrote to me and she said she was gifted a couple different brands of shirts.
Yes.
And she said her Somebody shirts were in the wash.
Uh-huh.
And so she wore somebody else's shirt. And she said she did not quite realize how much she loved my shirts
Aw.
until she tried something else.
Yes.
And she said the softness,
Uh-huh.
the way the drains fit in the
Mhm.
pockets, the way the neckline was, just all the different little details. She said now she will just make sure she has a Somebody shirt clean the whole time.
Aw.
So
And you know what? That's a referral that goes a long way for someone who has to wear
holy
it.
moly.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's the thought
Yeah.
you put into it, the thoughtfulness. So I know we won't go through a lot with this, but was it easy starting? You know, were you already doing clothes or I know you're an entrepreneur doing hair and everything, but still, how did you start something like
Well,
that?
my mom taught me how to sew when I was a little kid.
Mhm.
And so I had very basic sewing skills.
Okay.
But then I literally just started Googling because I knew I needed to have a factory
Yes.
make them.
Mhm.
And I started Googling factory, this and that. And it was probably a 2-year process
Really?
where I was beating my head against the wall the whole time. So I didn't know how to find factories. And so, yeah, kind of got through that process where just tiny bits of information at
Mhm.
once, because you have to have a blueprint for a shirt before you can take it to factory. And so I went with one company that does the blueprints and they just didn't get it. I lost my money
Oh.
where they kept putting me from different account managers.
Mhm.
And at one point I had been with them for 8 months and a guy gets on the phone with me and he says, "This shirt is ugly." He said, "If you have a big busted woman on the dance floor, she is going to be popping out of this shirt and this and that." Because at the time I was looking at magnets
Yeah.
for closing it.
Mhm.
And he said, "She's going to be popping out of it. And I don't know why anybody would wear this shirt."
Not thinking what they're going through first.
Yes. And I'm like, did you not read the file? So this is for no breasted women. Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah. And so I ended up, my time with them was done.
Yes.
I spent a lot of money. I didn't have anything.
Mhm.
And then once COVID hit, I couldn't work.
Mhm.
And I was talking to US factories, just reaching out to them saying, "Hey, I have this blueprint that doesn't really work,
Mhm.
but what can I do?"
Mhm.
And I had a lovely lady in LA who said, "You need to talk to my friend." And he just took it over and it all worked.
Wow. It all worked out.
He hooked me up with a woman who does the pattern making.
Mhm.
And he sent me her number and he said, "Talk to this lady.
Mhm.
She will help take care of you."
Mhm.
And I looked and she had the same area code that I was in.
You're kidding.
And I looked back. No, and I messaged her and I said, and her name was Grace.
Mhm.
And I said, I called her and we got on the phone together. And I said, "Do you have a little black bob haircut?" And she said, "Is this Hannah?" And I had done her hair 5 years prior. She had moved away and just moved back to town. Yes. And after everything, she said, "That was the best haircut of my life. And I thank you so much." And she fixed my pattern for free.
You are kidding.
So no.
That's how I believe it was meant to be. Unfortunately, I hate that because trust me, I've spent so much money into other things that but what is a wonderful thing when you hook up with the right people and everything just works together for purpose and somebody you know of all people. That's crazy to me. Oh my goodness.
Isn't it? Yes.
That is crazy.
So yeah, so I've got a manufacturer now. And so now I know that she's there. She's a friend. And she's like, "If you need anything, let me know."
Yes.
And she's like, she could have gotten it done in 2 days. What I spent a year with that other company doing. So
okay, so a lesson for everyone out there: don't give up.
Any fledgling designers, email me. I'll give you Grace's information.
Please do. You definitely, we'll put all of that information in the show notes. Trust me. So let me ask you, you got that, you got the shirts, you have the pillows, you said. Now, what are the pillows are used for?
So the pillows kind of help protect your chest because your tissue is so soft. Sorry, it's so fragile and damaged. And for me, I just had it across me. It's a long rectangular pillow. And I just had it across me all the time. And even when you sleep at night, because I had to sleep sitting up for probably a good 6 or 8 months.
Wow.
After surgery too, because it hurts too much. Oh, and so these pillows are just your best friend.
Yes. Awesome.
And even some of it is implied security also, because you're holding it and you want to protect it, your damaged area. And so, and my dogs would come running in and hop on the couch and they don't know. And so to have that on me was just wonderful.
And that makes sense to me because even I heard you say on another podcast again that, even riding in a car, if so, because I understand I had a hysterectomy and when it was time for me to drive, I drove with a pillow for, I think longer than I should have, but I just wanted to feel comfortable knowing if that seatbelt pulled that I had something protecting my, because I had a full one. So I wanted something to protect me just to make sure, because I don't like doctors. I don't like going back to a doctor if I can help it. And I'm just trying to make sure I'm protected. So that is great. So
it's security and implied security also, security. Just like what you're saying.
And that's what it was. Yeah. I agree. So what other products you offer? Any other products on your website?
Yeah. So I'm a goofball and I had friends who would get me funny items when I was sick. And I appreciated that so much just because I didn't want to be treated. I didn't want people to go, oh, and just, I'm like, no, I'm trying to move through to the other side, man. I'm, keeping it positive. And so I tried to figure out some items that would just feel really fun and playful and a little irreverent and all that. So yes. So I have, my stock is a little low right now because I just put out a huge order, which is a good problem to have. But yes. So I've got some funny cards and coloring books. I have coloring books that are like Jason Momoa and Idris Elba. So they're
two of my favorite. I think I'll be ordering some of those.
I know. Well, and the one is hilarious. It's a sweary word coloring book. So
I love it.
Yes. And some gorgeous little necklaces that I found from some handmade designers and room sprays from a small company. Nice. So the one is called Spiritual Gangster. And it just smells nice. You can make your environment just it's that same thing of you wanted to feel good. So everything I chose, I wanted to feel good. So I've got some candles coming that I'm making and
I'm so excited. I can't wait. Everyone, we're going to give you the name of the website again. We're going to tell you how to connect with her. I will always, again, put all of that in my show notes. Now, tell me, from all of that, I know I've said it already in our conversation already, you started a podcast. So tell us about the podcast, the name of it, and when did you start that and why?
All right. Well, I started that. I started recording like 3 months ago. But I just released it a month ago. It's called Hannah's Superbad Podcast.
I love it.
So, and I love the idea that people are super bad. Like you hit obstacles and you figure it out. You figure out whether you have to go around, you have to go up, you have to go down, you have to zigzag. That makes you super bad. And so what I'm doing is I want to talk to women. I've been a hairdresser for 20 years and I love stories. I love connection. And I don't have all the answers. I didn't have chemo. I didn't have radiation, but so many people did. And so what I love doing is bringing on people who have different stories and they share their story. And I got to tell you, one of the big things I've found is when you are in all your treatments, your surgeries, you're in survival mode.
Okay.
And then when all that is over, that's when the really hard part starts, because life gets quieter. And that's when I've heard from so many women, and I know it myself. I looked at my body and I went, what the H happened?
Yeah.
Like, holy cow. And so you have gotten all the support. People have brought you food. People, you've gone to support groups, but then it all kind of drops out. And so this is my public service announcement right now is, if you know somebody, just check in with them, because it's a very isolating time, because from the outside, you're done. You should feel good. But sometimes that's when you're trying to integrate. You're different, but yet life can be the same. And so how do you navigate in this new normal? And so that's kind of a big drive for me with this podcast, is to have women on to tell their stories, and other ladies can connect with it and go, oh my gosh, I thought I was the only one who felt that way.
Exactly.
And you're not. And then for the ladies who are telling their stories, sometimes those feelings feel like crushing mountains on their shoulders. And when they tell it, it's out there and it doesn't hold the weight that it used to. So I am finding that it is just powerful for everybody.
It is. It's just going to help everybody, like to say, not to feel alone and to feel like, you just have a place you can go to. And so, and I love when I listen to, y'all have to go listen to her podcast, and her very first podcast. It blew tell us where you did your very first podcast, please.
I did my podcast in my pink bathtub.
And did you always have a pink bathtub?
Well, we bought our house 7 years ago and it was so dated and ugly. It had a pink toilet. It had pink sinks. It had a pink telephone on the wall in the bathroom. No, and it has this pink bathtub, and we've updated everything else. And I will not let my husband take out that pink bathtub. For some reason, it's the right size. It keeps the water warm. It's my happy place.
Your happy place.
So I'm like, I don't care. And yes, and I was so nervous. I sat down to do my first podcast probably 6 times and just couldn't get a flow. And that day I had said, I'm going to do it, dang it. And again, it wasn't flowing, and I knew I wanted to take a bath. And so I brought my computer in, brought my microphone in, and just decided I'll start talking and see what happens.
And everyone, let me tell you, she told me her podcasts are getting better as she go. I think it was perfect. The way you did it.
You're so
and I
kind.
think it's perfect because it was authentic. You were just telling your story, and you were just telling how you felt. And that's what people connect with, because I love the story you told about running and how, and going, go the next mile, and how you did 4 miles. I think it was the 4 miles, and you didn't think you could.
Yeah.
And that's how to me, just listening to your story, how you dealt with the breast cancer part, and I'm pretty sure, and other things in your life, you everyone, you have to go that next step, take that next step.
Yeah. My mom, that's something I learned from my mom. She always said, do what's next. When you might not know what to do in the big picture. You may not know how to fix your life. So you do what's next.
Yeah, Mom, I have to take that one. And that might be the title of this podcast, Do What's Next. I can talk to her all day. I promise you. I can ask, 100 other questions, but tell me, and I think you probably answered it already, but what do you attribute your fortitude to be influenced, to continue, to keep going, to take that next step, like your mother taught you, to just have the attitude you have to get through this in life?
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Gosh, that's a hard question. My first thought is stubbornness.
Yeah.
which
It worked.
which is also got me in trouble down, my younger years. Whoo.
Yes.
So
Yes.
stubbornness, but I think, yeah, just not ever being willing to give up.
Yeah.
And bad things happen. They do.
They do.
And we know that it's going to happen.
Exactly.
But then those good days are going to come too.
I agree.
So I think I have a blind faith that the good day is right around the corner.
Wonderful.
So
that's the perfect answer to me, because I have to take that same attitude with anything in life, and always trying to find the positive. I know, trust me, it's not easy, everyone, and we're not trying to say it is, but I'm that one who looks at the lighter side of life too, and I try to find a positive in anything I'm dealing with. So the best answer, you gave the best answer. Tell the listeners, if there's someone out there or someone who may be listening to this and they've just heard those 4 words you heard 4 years ago, that you have breast cancer, what kind of advice would you offer her today, or what would you say to encourage her?
Oh, that's a good question. Take support groups on Facebook with a grain of salt, because it is, people are afraid, and you hear the worst of the worst stories on there. And it can scare the bejesus out of you.
Yes.
So try to talk to other survivors, because it is so nice to know that there's ladies on the other side.
Yes.
And listen to my podcast.
Yeah, of course. Of
That's
course.
part of it.
Hannah's Superbad Podcast.
Yes.
I agree.
And make friends with your nurse care coordinator. Everybody gets a nurse care coordinator who is kind of like your Jiminy Cricket. They are out there helping make sure everything goes okay. There are also social workers at the hospital who can help you. And so if you do get an oncologist that things don't sound right, or if you do get information that just doesn't feel, trust your intuition and ask those questions, and know that there are people within the system, whichever medical system you're in. There are people, those social workers, there's nurses who are there to support you if something doesn't feel right. And again, if something feels great, let them know. I gave my nurse care coordinator bright red lipstick.
Oh, love it.
And so, yes. So make them your best friends and let them know if you're not doing okay.
Oh, wonderful.
So
that's good.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. Is there anything that I didn't ask you today that you would like to share, or, want to put out there to the audience, if there's a chance to say what you want to?
Oh, you are so wonderful. We have covered so much. It's just absolutely amazing, and I think kind of like what you said, I think that we can be light because we've seen the dark.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's not that we don't take it seriously, and it's not that we don't understand it. We've lived it.
Yes.
And we know then that the way to get through and to feel better in your heart and more open in your heart is to look for the light. So
amen to that.
And surround yourself with good people.
Let me ask you this. Tell us again how the listeners can go to your website. Tell me the name of your website, your social media, or if you have any events or anything coming up that you would want everyone to know about.
Oh my gosh. All right. So since we're on the podcast, my podcast is Hannah's HANNAH, Hannah's Superbad Podcast.
Yes.
And I'm also looking for women to be on the podcast. So my email address is on the website, and message me and let me know, because I love talking to people. My website is somebunnyawesome.com, SOMEBUNNY awesome.com. And that's Instagram too, somebunnyawesome.
Wonderful. And again, I'm going to put all of that in the show notes, so you will have all of it again once this episode is out. And right now, I want to recommend to everyone, if you are someone, we all know someone out there that's either gone through breast cancer, going through it, like you said, in the midst of it, or on the other side of it. I would suggest that go to her website. Let us support her and donate it to someone that we know or someone that we don't know. Just donate it to an organization out there that's already that deals with women who go through this, because they may have someone who may not be able to afford it. So I want to
Yes.
recommend everyone to consider supporting her. And it's such a great cause. It's such a
Thank
great
you.
cause. I tell you, me,
That's actually, I forgot to tell you,
yes.
I am working on my nonprofit right now. So hopefully I've got a Somebody Cares in the
Oh,
works.
wonderful.
So
And when you,
because
oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
what's better than giving the shirts away?
What
Oh my
better,
gosh.
what better way than to give it away? See, your heart is so in the
Yes.
right place. I love when people's heart is in the right place, because that when once that comes up, and if you ever want to come back, we're family. You are welcome to come back and stay here. I know you're going to say it on your podcast, but you are welcome. Or let me know. I'll be happy to share. I would definitely want to
Yeah.
support yours as well. And especially for you coming on and sharing your story and all the wonderful things you're doing. I cannot thank you enough for coming on here. You,
Thank you. You're my new best friend. I love it. Thank you.
everyone, if you see us, I'm going to, if she was near me, I would go and try to see if she can do my hair like hers. I don't think it's going to work, but I would go. But I love what you're doing. I love all the energy you bring to such a hard topic, like you said. But and I love your heart, to see your heart for it. And I know your family is so proud of you and
You.
everything you're doing.
Yeah.
And I just can't thank you enough. Everyone out there, we're going to encourage you, get your mammograms regularly.
Right. Please do.
Yes, get your mammograms. And again, everything she shared with us, take it into account and try to take one step, take the next step, like your mother said.
Yeah.
You know,
Check in with your friends. Yeah.
exactly. Check in
Make
and
sure
check
everybody's
in.
doing okay.
Exactly. Hannah, I want
Yeah.
to thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
You're welcome. Thank you for spending the afternoon with me.
Oh, same here. Until next time, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for hanging with us. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and other platforms, so you can stay up on our bi-weekly real conversations with these bold women. You can follow the Path Podcast on Facebook at the Path Podcast and on Instagram and Twitter at the Path_podcast. And if you would like to be a guest on the show or have questions for a future show, you can email us at thepath4ward@gmail.com. That's thepathforward@gmail.com. And if you're looking for a speaker or you're in need of a life coach, please reach out to me. Again, at thepathforward@gmail.com or at ACKORLEH@gmail.com. Thank you. Until next time.